back to the MTR Network. It's Kriss and Phenom here, and we are here to probably finish off the year with the last blockbuster of 2016 and the final cap feather in Disney's cap, and probably another record-breaking year for them. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The rebels make a risky move to steal the plans for the Death Star, setting up the epic saga to follow. It is directed by Gareth Edwards. Stars Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, a bunch of other people. Donnie Yen, Ben Mendelsohn, Forrest Whitaker, Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, so basically...
You said Ben Mendelsohn too, right?
Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn, okay. Yeah. Basically, all you need to know about this is basically... If you ever watched the original trilogy, when you watch A New Hope, in the first scroller you ever saw when you watch a Star Wars film, this film is basically that scroller. It is basically how because that movie opens up with Darth Vader and his destroyer trying to take over, trying to get the plans for the Death Star from Princess Leia. This movie is basically how Princess Leia got those plans, the rebels who got the plans for her. That is what this movie is, and it's awesome.
See, that's the way you saw it. The way I saw it was the people who wrote this film, besides knowing the scroller, were also like, we are so sick of shows like Family Guy and Big Bang Theory and et cetera, et cetera. These damn wars nerds making fun of us for the fact that the way to blow up the Death Star was to shoot through a hole the size of a wombat, and that would completely destroy it from the inside. That makes no sense. Why would you put all that technology into this piece of equipment and that be your fail point? And they were like, you know what? Let's just make Rogue One. We'll kill that joke now. And that's exactly the way I watched this whole film. I was like, this is the biggest troll in the most awesome way possible to those guys who used to make those jokes. And it's beautiful. Like, it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it is? I mean, ever since Disney bought Lucas, first of all, how much did they buy? Was it $4 billion?
It's $4 billion, I believe.
All right, listen, George Lucas, you need to go to your local police department and tell them you were robbed. You were robbed, sir. You were robbed. That they got this off of you for $4 billion. Because
I hope he signed something where he still gets like a percentage of the money made from these genius pieces of production using his very full of holes ideological writings.
Listen, basically what we've seen so far from... Can I remember when Disney first bought Lucasfilm, people were like, oh my God, Disney's going to do more Star Wars films and they're going to ruin it. Here's what happened. Disney bought Lucasfilms, took Star Wars, and we're like, all right, guys, we're finally going to give you guys the Star Wars film you guys wanted. We're going to fill in holes. We're not going to erase everything from the original trilogy. We're not even going to erase. We're going to actually make you even maybe possibly want to watch the prequels again, because we're going to take elements from all that stuff and we're going to make movies that you like. And so far, they're 2 for 2.
Yeah, my hands raised over here is one of the people who want to watch all of the prequels and the sequels and the equals.
Yeah, I
caught up on this.
Yeah, I mean this. Rogue One is the film that makes you want to now go back and, like, I wasn't one of those people like, oh, you know what, I want to go back and watch the original. I actually want to now go back, at least watch A New Hope again, because, yeah.
There's no way you can not relate this film to A New Hope. They say hope at least 26 times
right.
in this movie. There's a lot of hope to find throughout this whole movie, covered in a lot of violence and just awesome graphics. Action scenes. I kind of want Disney to buy Transformers now. Can we can we get that? Can you go acquire that?
Can we just
please?
Get Disney to buy everything? Here's what it is. And I think Jay from Interpocalypse said it best when he was walking out of this film. Disney basically made a Vietnam film, because this film is brutal. Like this,
it's in the trenches.
This is not your typical Star Wars film, in that this is the first one of the films that's not about, isn't about one of the Skywalkers. You know, it follows Felicity Jones's character, Jyn Erso, who is the daughter of Mads Mikkelsen's character, Galen Erso, who is basically the Empire's most genius fucking weapons designer of all time. And so, not a spoiler here, but you can kind of figure he's the missing piece for them to get the Death Star together. And so the movie is basically about them trying to use Jyn Erso to get to her father and get the plans to the Death Star. I mean, you here's the thing: you know how this film ends because you've seen A New Hope, so you kind of know how it ends. But to me, it's about how it gets there, and this is a risky film. This is a risky film for them. This is the first Star Wars film you've had that isn't about Jedi. That doesn't have a Jedi somewhere. It doesn't have a Skywalker somewhere. So it's risky of how is this going to tie in? How is it going to fit in? And I got to say, they do a great job of fitting it into Star Wars, and it makes sense.
I just know that after I walked out of Saving Private Urso, I was pretty much a super duper Star Wars fan. Yeah. And I've never been a super duper Star Wars fan. I've always been a fan of the Force and Jedi, and I mean, my favorite character is Darth Maul. He's always going to be just my favorite. But watching this is like, you get to see a film where they can actually do side story films with just as much oomph as the main story films. And I think that's pretty fucking awesome. It really is like watching an episode of something from Clone Wars or things they've already been doing, or maybe a spinoff concept that works. And they don't kind of squabble it a bit in the same way that like Fantastic Beasts happened, which is, I think, comparable to this year. We actually got two films that were kind of like revisiting material that was extremely popular, but not, and maybe in line, but really taking a chance at being in line at different points. Whereas Fantastic Beasts is also before, actually, and this is before. But I think this is more closer, and this is closer than Fantastic Beasts was as far as like years apart. I feel like this worked better because I feel like it had a lot more solid ground to build on, despite Harry Potter or whatever having like 8 films and 50 million books. More than enough, it would seem.
Well, the big thing between this and like, I think that's a good valid comparison because they're both, like you said, doing a little something different from a known, and they're risky, doing something from a known, beloved series. The difference is, Fantastic Beasts, as much as we liked it, its script is a mess. They try to cram 2-3 other movies into it, and at some point, the main story never fits. This is all of this fits, and there's even at the beginning of the film, like I remember there was rumors that there might be a problem with this film because they were going back for reshoots and they were trying to tighten things up, and it makes sense if you watch the beginning of the film because they set different things up. Like you jump around to like 4 different places at the very, very beginning of the film, and there's a reason for that, and it works. But I can definitely see why they were like, well, we got to make sure we get this right. Whereas Fantastic Beasts, you would do that, and it didn't work. In this case, it does, and they do a good job of bringing it all together. And
I think you hit on something, though, with the biggest difference between this and Fantastic Beasts as far as, like, just structurally, or not even structurally, like, fruition. Because Fantastic Beasts comes from a book mentioned in a fictitious film.
Right.
And this comes from the prequel or the prelude to the very first film, just the prelude section, right? Yeah, that's where. So both of these kind of came from not like traditional source material, right? There's somebody going, well, that was a good concept that we dropped in the source material. Maybe we could build on that, and they really just build on these concepts or backstories. I think the biggest difference that may have affected the way these films were presented, Rogue One it has been stated, was a one and go. There's no Rogue 2, there's no Rogue 3. And whereas Fantastic Beasts was kind of like, this is the beginning to a 5-part whatever. Okay. So it's like, we can get this right next time. Whatever we missed the first time, we just come again. Rogue One was like, no, this is pretty much it. We want to tell this story. And if we don't get it, that's where everybody's going to move on to 8. That's pretty much it. So I think that might have played a part in this. Plus, it was Disney. I'm just saying it was Disney. Disney pretty much knows how to do this amazing shit now.
Yeah, I mean,
they just do. They've got cartoons. They've got superheroes. They've got Jedi.
Well, yeah, they do that, and not only that, but it's just like they bring together what Disney realized and what we all realized was that the best things about Star Wars had nothing to do with George Lucas, and that there's a really rich. I say, there's always this talk about Star Wars versus Star Trek and stuff like that. And hey, listen, I like Star Trek. I'm a very big Star Trek fan. I grew up on Star Trek. There's so much lore with Star Wars that hasn't been touched on, and I think Disney has realized that and is really starting to realize that potential. Like I said, this is a whole movie that doesn't involve Jedi, yet there are so many different. Like you see things that you've never seen in film. Jedi temples. At one point, I'm pretty sure we go to a Sith temple at one point. Like there are different things that happen here in this film that you're like, you could have spent years of hours of movies just talking about that one location that sometimes you read about or you hear about is mentioned in a side conversation you never gone. Here you're able to flesh that out, and there's so much material here for Disney to go forward with that they're gonna be able to make this movie forever. Like people were thinking about, oh well, they're doing episodes 7, 8, and 9, and then who knows what they're gonna do after that. Well, I know. They're going to keep making shit. They already have a Han Solo movie they're going to do, a young Han Solo movie that's going to be coming out. So that's going to be great.
Fire. It's fire.
Yeah,
fire.
At some point they're going to do that Boba Fett movie. You got to do that.
It'll be fire.
Yeah, it's good. There's so, I'm telling you, listen, let's jump right to this part. We're going to do a spoiler review at some point after this weekend. I'm going to see it again. I think the best thing you should do when you go to see this film is forget everything you saw in the trailer. Not because the trailer is bad, but Disney has learned how to cut their trailers. They do this with Marvel, too. They cut their trailers to tell you a story in the trailer that sometimes has nothing to do with the movie. And so they cut certain scenes into the trailer that either don't happen or conversations that don't happen or in a way so that you think that certain events are going to happen in a certain way. They don't happen there. So cut that out of your mind. Go into this movie fresh. All the thing you need to know is that these are rebels going to take the plans for the Death Star. Just go in with that. I say it to say, you're not going to get a lot of Vader. And I'm hoping people didn't expect to get a lot of Vader in this movie. You don't get a lot of Vader. It's pretty much a cameo. But when I tell you that you don't get a lot of Vader, but you get the Vader you deserve.
You get more Vader than you deserve. You don't get a lot of Vader, but you get way more Vader than you deserve.
You get the Vader you've always wanted, and I'm just
been wondering why he was so Vader.
Right.
That's what it did for me. Yeah. When I would see certain scenes, I was like, oh,
that's
why people are fucking scared of Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I watched the first three films. When I say the first three films, I mean 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
When I watched them, I never got why, and I get it. It was the 70s or whatever, the technology, and they didn't incorporate certain things into the films that they do now, like, I don't know, Donnie Yen. So when I'm watching this film, I'm going, when I'm watching those films, I'm kind of like, I guess, I'm just supposed to believe the lore behind Vader being badass. Yeah, and then you see this, and you're like, holy fuck, okay, I get it. Also, you don't get any Jedi, but you get Donnie Yen. It's like trick play, right? They're like, we're not giving you this because you don't need it because we gave you Donnie Yen. And you'll see what I'm talking about when you see the film. I can't wait to see what they actually do with the two guys from the raid in 8. It's going to be fucking amazing. Like those fight scenes dumped into this guerrilla warfare with rebels and alliances type film. Was just like I just thought it was dope, and you got to see way more. It reminded me of the old Star Wars game that used to be on Sega, which I thought was called Rogue, where you just piloted the whole game. It was kind of like Star Fox, but with Star Wars, and that just this film brought me back to that because they have a lot of like first person cockpit scenes. There's a lot of air fighting in this one. Like if you thought the air fighting in 7 was bad, was good, like that was a teaser. This one uses new technology to render old looking battles, but they look awesome. Like they look really fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, again, the way the effects of Star Wars in the last 2 Star Wars movies we've got now, this and Episode 7, amazing. Like, you know, if you have any doubt and any question, like, I always get people, well, should I see it in 3D or should I see it in IMAX? Yes, nigga, if you can pay for the 3D IMAX, watch it in 3D IMAX. I mean, yes. I mean, come on, what kind of question is that? Like, this is, at this point, the technology that happens with these films, and these films look so good. Yes. I mean, that's the answer. So, yeah.
My God, and shout out to fucking Alan Tudyk, bro, because goddamn, K2SO is he is my favorite droid. Like, I know y'all like BB-8 and y'all like R2-D2 and C-3PO. K2SO is so good.
Imagine, so
he's so good. He is the black character in this film. Yeah. He's the black nerdy character in this movie, yo.
So you know, like, you know, that's the thing with C-3PO and R2-D2, that you can always tell that R2-D2 is saying some fucked up shit and is getting crazy, because C-3PO is always like, how dare you say that? That is basically K2SO, but he actually has a voice. So instead of beeps, you're actually hearing the actual condescending, sarcastic voices of this this droid, and it is. He has the funniest fucking lines in this film.
He is the most spoiled, nonchalant motherfucker I've ever seen in a film, I think. He is an asshole.
Right.
Like, God, he is an unapologetic, nonchalant, spoiled asshole. And it is fun. Like you said, it is funny. It is the funniest thing in this movie. Every line he says is fucking funny. Yeah. Every line he says is funny. Like, you're waiting for him to talk again.
Yes. Should say, hey, Felicity Jones, again, this is the second Star Wars film we had now, was Disney at the helm, that's given us a female lead character in there. She plays Jyn Erso. I will say the one thing that I wanted more from, there's a scene in here where she starts kicking a bunch of ass. I kind of wanted more of that.
Yeah, she was really, really good at the ass kicking.
Yeah, like it was such a good thing that even at one point, Diego Luna's character, Cassian, looks at her like, damn, when did you learn how to do that? Like, and I kind of wanted more of that.
I liked Old Man Whitaker, because I wish we could have got an Old Man Whitaker film instead of an Old Man Logan film. Mm-hmm. Forrest Whitaker as the crazy old man who somehow is still alive is probably one of his best roles, and it's so short lived in this film. And I was like, God damn it, because it's so good. Mm-hmm. He just old man. He's like Obi-Wan, but black, and mean, and not taking nobody's shit. And I was like, I wish we could have seen more of him, but there are just so many other characters for them to jump to and planets for them to go to. They moved around space a lot in this film, which kind of scared me at first going in, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember all these different planets. But honestly, they did it really well, because at the end, I only think it was like maybe 5 or 6 planets. And the development they did for each planet, like the way they drastically look different.
Yeah.
And the design and everything was awesome. And there are a lot of Easter eggs in it. Like, we were talking about that in the car. Like, you hit me some things that I didn't realize I realized while watching the film. For me, it was more like a hint. I was like, that person looks familiar. Oh.
Yeah. They do a good job of, there's a character in here that basically bridges the gap from the prequels to this. And there's characters that bridge the gap from this to the original trilogy. So you have this straight line that shows you that, hey, all this stuff matters, all this stuff connects. There's things for, like I said, I think episode 7 was really about that bridging, bringing in new people, bringing in old people, old fans, bringing in new fans, things like that. This film, while I definitely think if you're new to Star Wars, you'll be able to get it and being able to enjoy it, I feel like this is really for fans of the original trilogy. There's still obviously there's stuff that they pull from the prequels that they need to bridge that gap there. But if you are a fan, if you are a Star Wars nerd, if you are a fan of the original trilogy, and you want, there's a cameo. There's a cameo of two characters from the cantina in episode 4 that show
that's
up.
why you were laughing.
Yeah,
okay. I'm trying to figure out why y'all were laughing at that part.
I laugh my ass off when you see who it is. You're gonna be like, like there is something there are little things like that where you get these little Easter eggs that and I know I probably missed some of them. That's how many they put in there, and they don't feel forced. And they feel like they make sense. I'll throw it out there too. They do this thing, and this is something that we've talked about with Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy was the first film I think we've really noticed where they did a really good job of de-aging a person to look like their younger selves.
They did it again in Ant-Man with Michael Douglas.
Oh, no. I mean, we've seen it before, but I'm just saying that was the first
we've seen it come along at this point.
Right.
We saw it in Tron, and then Michael Douglas looked phenomenal. And then we saw it again in Civil War with fucking Robert Downey.
Yeah.
So
they did it in this film for a couple characters, and I'll be honest, it's scary.
It's seamless.
It's scary because you're like, wait, no, like it is. They did that with a few characters in this film, and you're just like, wow. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm trying to touch on some things and not give away too much. Like I said, our spoiler review will be way longer because there will be so much to talk about in that.
Yeah.
But I'll just put it like everything's great.
Ben Mendelsohn, as usual, plays the underachieving villain, and I appreciate him for doing that in every film because he's just so believable. Mm-hmm. But things just never go Ben's way. They added this Diego Lunacat that was one of the leads at this point running around. He did an amazing job, I thought. As not as cool as Jin, and you kind of don't know where his allegiance is. Well, and I thought that was good about his character because he's kind of like the contrast to her. While Jin is on the run, he's like, why are we running away from things? We should be running toward them. And they both seem justified, which is why they're bumping heads at this point.
You know what this film does, and I think it's something that, again, I think because again, George Lucas fucking sucks. The original trilogy doesn't do this. This film does a good job of showing you just how desperate the rebellion is. Because by this point, you got to think about it. The rebellion's been going on for at least for decades. This is not the start of it and everybody's clean. Like basically with Diego's character Cassian, he's basically saying, I've done some dirt, and it gets to a part of the film where he talks about these other people that are going with him. It's like, we've all done dirt for the rebellion. We've given it our all. We've done things we are not proud of. And I think that does a good job of grounding you, letting you know that, hey, listen, while the rebellion is the good side, if you will, they've done some bad things. They've had to assassinate people. They've had to blow, like they've done fucked up shit because it's a rebellion. And so they do a good job of showing you there are these characters in here that have this gray. They are no longer the good and bad and stuff like that. It's way beyond that because you've gotten down in the weeds. It's become it's become a dogfight, and this is literally the rebellion at a state. Like when the Death Star, when they realize there's a Death Star, they're basically ready to give up. They're like, well, I guess that's it. It's been a good run. We're done. We can't beat that. And I think that his character represents that. Hey, listen, we've sacrificed so much. We've sacrificed our morality for this. Because I think at one point he talks about how he was born into this. He's been doing it since he was 6. He didn't have a chance to run away and pretend like this doesn't go down. I think Felicity Jones has her character has a good line in there. As Jen says, she's asked at one point, it's like, would you would do nothing, and so you could look up to what would you do? You look up and you see the Imperial flag flying everywhere. She was like, well, if I don't look up, I don't see anything. It's just like,
which is basically how she's been living her life anyway, which you find out in the beginning of this film. Yeah, I thought that was dope. I can't leave out, because some women will go crazy. Our only hip hop star in the film, Riz Ahmed from The Night Of as Bodhi. And I feel like any dude named Bodhi in the film I can rock with. Like, I'm a Wire fan, so as soon as I was like, oh, his name is Bodhi, okay, cool. He about to be a cool ass dude. But I thought he played his character very well too, as this pilot that is trying to deliver a message. And I don't know, like, I feel like they didn't force these characters to come together. I feel like these characters had no choice but to come together. And I also felt like, and I think the reason sometimes characters feel forced together is because they're trying to develop a story for each character. And that wasn't necessary here. But you got to go see the film to find out why. So I think they did a very good job of that.
Yeah, I mean, you at some point, I think you nailed it. Like, they don't try to force development on each of these characters, give each of the characters a backstory, and there's a reason for that, but also because there just isn't any time. You know, when they're put in situations where they don't have time to do that, yeah, man, this is exactly what you wanted. Like I said, you know, if you're expecting a lot of Vader, you're not going to get it, and you shouldn't have expected that. But what you do get on that, like, I can't stress enough, the Vader you do get, it's going to make people it's going to bring back to the surface people asking for a Vader movie.
Yeah, it needs to happen at this point. Like,
I don't see how they avoid it.
It needs to happen.
I don't see how they avoid it after this. Again, I hate to say he steals the show, because, again, when I say he's in the film very, very little, is very, very little. And if you don't have this scene with him, the film is still great. But
that was a bonus.
It was
because the film was pretty much done.
Yeah.
And he decided to go full bastard, and it was like, Disney, God, I love you.
Yeah.
So I think my favorite characters are from this were easily K2SO
absolutely.
And Mr. Glass Whitaker, because I really wish that there had been an Unbreakable 2. They need to bring Samuel back, but they did. They brought it back with Forrest. And Forrest plays Mr. Glass better than Samuel did, as far as I'm concerned. So that was dope, man. This was a really good film. This was an amazing film that you'll have to go see in the theaters. And this will be another Star Wars film that people see 3 and 4 times before the New Year's reign in. Like, it's a good ass film, man.
Yeah, it's gonna make a lot of money. Go see this film. You're gonna see a bunch of cameos, a bunch of Easter eggs from the series. It's exactly what you want. Like, when you read that scroller about the daring plan to get you were like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, you know, that's what you want. This is what you wanted. We'll go into more detail and we'll talk more about this. I know Phenom's gonna hop on with me. We'll figure out who's gonna hop on us after they see it. Maybe we'll do next week, try to get a spoiler review out for this. But yeah, man. What we getting at? 10?
I mean, it's a 9 out of 10 for
9.
me.
Okay.
And I don't think there's probably ways you could have made this film better. That's why I'm leaving that one range of a point.
That's fine. That makes sense.
But this completely satisfied everything I needed from another Star Wars film. And I say that as I hope they're not done another Star Wars film. Like, you know, if they want to do Fate of the Stars, I'm good with that too.
Yeah.
At this point, you know, just keep the family together.
Yeah. Just keep making them until we say we don't want them anymore. But again, it's like that. I know what's going to happen. It's going to be that thing where they try to do a superhero fatigue. Or are we going to have Star Wars fatigue? I don't think so.
It's been 50 years almost, so
there's that.
Probably no.
There's that. The other reason why I say no, it's just because if you can keep doing like this does, which is, again, this is a story that you only read about in a scroller at the very, and it went out of your mind and you forgot about it for 30, 40 years. You know? And then they come back and like, we're going to make a movie about that. And you come back and you're like, damn, you can do that. Think about it. You could do a movie that shows, if you read the scroller for episode 3, like, you know what I would like to see? I would like to see a bunch of prequel movies that basically do the scrollers for the prequels. Because the scrollers for the prequels are pretty good. Like, I like episode 3. The scroller for episode 3 is even fucking better. Because that's basically Grievous showing up and doing a raid on the Capitol. And I know they did a Clone Wars kind of episode kind of about that, but I would love to see a live action version of that. Like, there's so much you can do and so many stories you can tell in this universe, which is where I go back to the whole thing of Star Wars versus Star Trek. I just think there's a richer world in Star Wars than Star Trek, you know, and there's so much you can tell, and we've only scratched the surface. Like,
well, Star Wars is pretty much like space exploration, right?
Star Trek, yeah.
I mean, Star Trek. And Star Wars is all the magical things that could be in our future. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm more a Star Wars person. I think Star Trek is good though.
Yeah, it's so
cool. It doesn't have the Force or Jedi or anything. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. You don't
doesn't have Donnie Yen. You know, it's
you
cool.
Don't have lightsabers. I'm just saying. You just kind of.
It's okay.
Yeah, you know. All right, folks. So there you guys have it. Again, get premium. You can hear us do our spoiler review for this. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks or something like that. Again, MTR Network, movie trailer reviews on iTunes, Stitcher Radio. Search for us. And until next time, we're out of here. Peace.